So Thunderbolts is a long-running series. A lot of people know this group of villains that pretended to be heroes, but then most of them, not all, actually became heroes. It's a pretty great tale and some good twists back in the 90s. However, one thing you might not know is that the Thunderbolts, or at least a team of Thunderbolts, were brutally murdered by Graviton. I mean, comic deaths are super common, and most people come back, so it's not a big deal. But the fact that these people were brutally murdered in this way gave me real Suicide Squad vibes, and I gotta talk about it with you guys. But like all my videos like this, I like to back up a little bit, give you a little bit of context. So if you don't know who the Thunderbolts are, it's a group of supervillains who were led by Zemo. Yes, that Zemo, that piece of trash Nazi motherfucker. And he decided to pretend to be a hero called Citizen V, who was a hero. He basically took over a mantle and pretended to be this hero. He also had Beetle, who used to be a Spider-Man villain, become Mech 1 or Mac 1, whatever you want to call it. Fixer became Techno, Goliath became Atlas, Screaming Mimi became Songbird, and Moonstone became Meteorite. So all these villains, or once were villains from the 60s, 70s, 80s, became heroes, or at least pretended to be heroes in this storyline. And you're wondering, well, how did nobody know? Well, these villains became heroes because the Avengers and the Fantastic Four were basically murdered, or they went to their own pocket dimension because of Onslaught. They tried to kind of showboat themselves as heroes, kind of being the new protectors of Earth. But see, the pretending part started to get dropped because a team member who joined these villains named Jolt, she was actually just a girl who wanted to actually be a hero, and she became a Thunderbolt. And thanks to her ideals, the others started to change heel and turn on Zemo, actually trying to be heroes, leaving Zemo outcasted and the Thunderbolts becoming an actual real team with actually a new leader, Hawkeye. Now, once Hawkeye joins this team, he really is trying to reform all of them. And you have a new character, Charcoal. He's a young guy who is actually made of rocks and kind of molten lava type of thing fused together. And really, he wants these guys to actually be a team, kind of like the Avengers, to be heroes. Because, you know, Hawkeye was once a villain, or he started off as a villain and became a hero. So it's very, very fitting for him to kind of be the leader of the team. So it was really nice to see these villains, who are all screwed up, a lot of them mentally, actually trying to do good. However, things change, plans change, people change, and when Mac 1, or who used to be Beetle, is arrested and Hawkeye and the team bust him out, eventually Hawkeye himself kind of has to face justice, making the team just kind of flounder out, and this leads the Thunderbolts to kind of break up, save for a few members here or there like Jolt or Charcoal. So this is when the Redeemers come in. It's almost like a rebrand for the Thunderbolts, but it's still the Thunderbolts. They just named themselves Redeemers to kind of be different than the Thunderbolts at the time, but this was in the Thunderbolts long-running series at this point. They had similar powers, and they even tried to keep up the appearances. So after Captain America kind of runs for a little while, Citizen V joins. Now everybody thinks this is the actual John Watkins who is Citizen V, but it's not. Lo and behold, it is Zemo possessing the young man's body. And then we have Smuggler, who is Atlas's younger brother. And then we have Beetle coming back, who now is Alila Davis. She basically uses the Mech 1 armor, but going by the name Beetle. Meteorite is now Valerie, who has similar powers to Moonstone. And Scream, who is kind of similar to Songbird. And then you have Fixer, who, you know, just becomes Techno again. But, you know, he's not as evil, or he claims he's not as evil. And like I said, we do keep some regular members, so we do have Bolt and Charcoal who join the team and stay on the team even with the new Redeemers. So pretty much they're the only original members per se from the old team. Everybody else kind of goes their own way and leaves the team. So this is where my video really kicks in. This is what I want to talk about. So these Redeemers, who are the Thunderbolts, they're just named Redeemers to be something different than the Thunderbolts in the universe itself, kind of get truly fucked in the ass is the nicest way I can say it. So Graviton decides to launch his attack, and he is one of the strongest villains in the Marvel Universe. If you don't know about him, well, he can control gravity. On top of that, he is a little bit unstable. And when I say a little bit, I mean a whole lot of it. So what happens is that he makes all the heroes in the world, almost all of them, pretty much hang upside down, lose consciousness, not able to fight him. But the Redeemers try their best. And so, Graviton decides, well, I'm going to dispose of these like bacon overcooked. You can't even look at it, right? You cook bacon, it burns, you're like, shit, this goes in the garbage. That's exactly what Graviton does when he looks at the Thunderbolts here. So Scream is definitely the first to go. He basically just gets vanished in a vacuum. It's like such an odd death that it's happened so fast you don't even realize it, but like that, zapped, out of existence. Kind of just goes, yeah, nowhere, gone. Pretty fucked up. Then we have Charcoal, who is at this point a long-running member, and he is ripped apart and spread across the desert as basically dust. So usually he can rebuild himself if he's broken apart. It's a kind of a really cool power. But when you turn to dust, I'm sorry, this young man's future is halted, and now he is spread across the world like ashes. Brutal. I'm telling you, brutal. But if I'm going to be honest, I would say these are the lucky ones. And now you're saying, what do you mean lucky ones? This guy just turned to dust. Well, Jolt doesn't die. Her body just kind of malfunctions and she becomes this form of electricity, so she can't really do anything. But Meteorite, in my opinion, really gets it the worst, or almost the worst. She is thrown into outer space and slowly suffocates. She even begs Graviton when he comes from space to bring her back. She can't breathe. She's dying slowly. She's suffocating in space. It's a slow and bitter death, and he just like looks at her and then just flies back to Earth. Like a real piece of shit, you know what I'm saying? It's just so awful to watch her die slowly in these panels as he goes back to Earth and she's stuck in space begging. It's not easy to read, I'm telling you. But if that's not the worst death, it is definitely Beetle. So this is pretty brutal. As you can see, she is ready to give it her all. What's crazy is they give her a backstory in a couple of pages. Her determination to keep people safe, to do something different, to not be used as a pawn by the government and her abusive boyfriend. She's gonna fight back. And then Graviton just easily crushes her entire body inside the Beetle armor. I'm talking about squishing her legs, squishing her head into her chest, squishing her arms into her chest, and making a little tiny box of death. This is some horrific shit. She only gets to yell when her legs get fucking squished. Everything else, by that time, her head gets squashed. She is dead. So this is really fucked up. And then Smuggler, well, he just gets thrown into the sun and basically left to die. Yeah, screwed up to say the least. And I think just the accumulation of all this happening in almost pretty much a single issue is like both shocking and fucked up. And it doesn't feel like it's just made for shock value. I mean, sure, some of it is. This is the late 90s, early 2000s. But it definitely feels like Graviton is a threat. I mean, he has stopped the entire world of heroes from facing him. So this is not like a weak villain who suddenly gets an upgrade. This is a very powerful villain who is on a mission. And when he disposes of the Redeemers, aka the Thunderbolts, well, like you can see, it's not easy. Now, eventually, the old Thunderbolts come back together. Even with Zemo and his asshole-ish ways, does figure a way to stop and overpower the extremely lethal villain. It's actually with more of a mind game and more of using your emotions and talking. But it's a breath of fresh air, and you just kind of breathe when you get worried that this guy could easily dispose of anyone at any time. That's how powerful he is. I mean, he got rid of Charcoal, who was in this series probably 20 plus issues at this point, and he was killed off as the second person. So Thunderbolts does share its, you know, characters biting it or dying, but these deaths in a row just truly shocked me. And I think it's the brutal nature of it, the casualness of it is just insane. And the wielder, Graviton, I mean, he just really shook me when I read this as a villain who just doesn't give a shit. So this, my friends and viewers and watchers, is the story of when the Thunderbolts were brutally murdered by Graviton, and now you know their bloody deaths. So now you get to watch it and live with it just like I do. Think about it when you're just thinking about how she must have felt as the armor crushed her into a little box. Anyway, I hope you liked this video. If you did, hit the subscribe button, you know, or hit the like button at least. But if you like this a lot, hit the subscribe button. I got more videos like this. As you can see, I like to make comic videos, but I do a lot of other nerdy stuff, so check it out. And we keep it casual here. We have fun. We talk about comics. So I would love to hear you guys. What do you think of these deaths? If you read them, what did you think when you read them? If you're just watching this and now viewing them, Tell me, what do you think? Is this not screwed up? Is this not brutal? Is this not, oh my god, how can he do that in just a span of, I don't know, 21 pages? I'm with you. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoy, and if you did, I'll see you next time. Have a good one.